Perfect.
Okay, it's recording.
I'm Andrea. I'm like, the bottle washer here, and Fred is the designer and the developer of the dashboard. He's going to take you through the presentation, but what we wanted to warn you about is you don't have to take notes during this one because you're getting a drink from a fire hose. So we like to give you the visual of everything that's coming at you today, so you're going to go, oh my gosh. That would be the typical response, but since I'm warning you that there is no notes, we just want to give you the flow, pardon the pun, of the whole dashboard, and maybe see some areas where you guys are going to participate. And the first thing I'd like to tell you is that the dashboard, and I'll go briefly through this because some of you have seen this before, but briefly through the dashboard intro, which means that we were developed in public health, for public health. We were originated as a consulting firm for a large jurisdiction here in Arizona, and this was years ago, and they wanted to develop, they didn't know they wanted to develop a performance management system at that time, but it was an operational planning and execution system that's cloud-based, that would be able to pull in every level of your department and also have that quality improvement segment into the dashboard, that plan, do, check, and adjust cycle. In 2011, when FAB came along, they had a fully demonstrated performance management system. And of course, the most important thing was to be able to fulfill that standard 9.1, measure 9.1.1a. That is being able to implement a performance management or some kind of system that will involve everyone, including your external partners. Now, I don't know who can answer this for me, but I noticed that we have put the FAB 1.5 accreditation was already in your system. And I was just curious, are you guys in the middle of accreditation at this point? If anybody knows.
They're exploring the pathways.
Oh, yay! Okay, so we have the pathways in the system. So we have the 2.0 and we have, oh, great, that's awesome. I love it. Okay, so then now the next step I'm going to show you is we're just going to define performance management. Fred's going to take you through and show you that pathways, and that's an awesome idea. So the first step of performance management is you have to create a good operational plan, and you probably already are working on a strategic plan or you already have one, but that is just getting a specific group of people doing a specific set of activities in a specific time frame. Then the next step is once you get going on that plan, you want to monitor it. So you want to monitor that plan on pretty much every level. So the macro level would be, let's say, your group level. How are we doing in our community health assessment? How are we doing in our workforce development plan? Then you'd want to also monitor on the micro level, and here's why. So if something is going awry on your plan, most likely it's going to be on that activity level. You didn't have enough resources to fulfill certain orders. Somebody went out on maternity leave, and so you still don't have enough resources. That would be the micro level. Then you have the public level, where the public would want to be able to see maybe just snippets of how the health department, you can display your services and initiatives, how well you're doing on those particular issues. Then the last part is after you get going on your plan, you're executing your plan, you're checking your plan, you want to make those adjustments in the plan and go back in and start that cycle over again. We like to show you the hierarchy of the system by illustrating this pyramid. When Fred opens up the dashboard, you're going to see some navigational tabs that you may have already seen going from left to right. that is symbolized here in the triangle or the pyramid, where at the top, that first tab, the top is your organization. The next tab you will see is your groups. Your offices, your programs, could be your strategic plan, could be just a specific group for pathways, your QI, workforce development. Each group will have their own set of services and initiatives. Each service and initiative is going to have their own set of goals, objectives, and activities. And then this is where Fred thinks that breathing is overrated. He goes pretty fast, but like I said, we dig deeper in the next training, and the next training, and the next training. This is just an overview, so hopefully no one gets anxiety at looking at this. I did for the first time, but we just want to show you the flow. And are you ready, Fred?
I'm ready. Thanks, Andrea.
Okay, and I don't want to distract from his beauty, so I get off camera. All right,
Okay.
I'll see you guys.
Okay, thanks, Andrea. What we're going to do now, and as Andrea said, this is a drink from a fire hose. There's going to be a lot of information, but what we're trying to do is just show you the overall features and functions of the dashboard, what it's about. There's no test at the end. Don't worry about taking notes. In the next training, we're going to drill down deeper and then deeper and deeper as we get through it. But the purpose of today is to kind of understand, if you're putting together a 1,000-piece puzzle, you got to have the box. Well, today we're going to show you the box, what it's going to look like, what you're trying to get to. So just kind of sit back and relax and understand a lot of information coming at you. What I'm going to do now is actually walk you through those 3 phases Andrea talked about. We're going to build an operational plan. We use the example of tobacco cessation. We're going to take that plan through its life cycle so we can see the macro level as well as micro level tools and how we would share that with the public. And then we're going to take it through the PDCA cycle to see how we might do quality improvement. So we have a little demo organization we call USA Public Health, and I will take you live into the system. When you log into the dashboard, if you haven't already, and we'll go through that whole process for those of you who have not had the opportunity to, you're going to see a menu similar to this, depending on your permissions as to how many of these menu items you see down here. But these are the tabs Andrew was talking about across the top. So you take that pyramid, you flip it on its left side, and you've got these tabs: the organization, the groups, service initiatives, goals, objectives, and activities. I'm going to go to my groups tab now, which basically is the structure of your department plus the highest level plans. So in the FAB world, they have what they call their 6-pack of plans, these 1 through 6 right down here. These are the minimum required plans for accreditation at any level, whether you're going pathways or going full accreditation. You've got to focus on these 6 plans. Underneath here, you'll see I have a group called Community Health. And then by looking at the numbers, you can see the reporting structure. So the first level is the department. That's the highest level. Level 2 groups report to level 1 group, 3 to 2, and all the way down to 10 levels, which nobody's ever gotten to. Under community health, you see we have tobacco and WIC. So for purpose of today, we're going to go look at the tobacco 2023 group. Now I'm going to look at the services or initiatives. Now, services are ongoing things. So think of WIC as a service. WIC has been around forever, will continue to be around forever. Let's assume for purpose of today, we're going to take tobacco cessation as a new initiative we're going to be moving towards. So it's something new, and hence it's going to have future dates associated with it. So down here, this initiative checkbox just says we're looking at a future service, if you will, or an initiative. So tobacco cessation is the initiative we're looking at. And it's just the big bucket of things that we're going to build plans underneath. Each service or initiative then has a set of goals. Goals are a very high level definition of what we're trying to accomplish. So as you can see, reduce smoking in high schools, reduce smoking in colleges, reduce smoking in public areas. Goals aren't real specific. They're not telling us, which high schools, when we're going to do it, how much we're going to reduce it. We're just trying to set the boundaries at this point in time. Down here at the bottom, we do have the ability, and this is a fairly new feature, is the ability to add a data source. So let's say we could find a data source like the CDC Smoking Cessation Fast Facts webpage down here that we could use as a reference point, as a link in here. So the data source down here is a text description, which appears down here, and then an actual data link. The link, by the way, does have to start with the full link, HTTP or HTTPS:// and then in this case, you'll see cdc.gov and the entire link. So typically what you're going to do is go to that place on the website, copy the link, and then copy it right into here. What happens is when I put that link in here, it gives me this little link button down here. And when I click on that, it pops open a new browser tab and takes me to that web page. So the reason for having that is just as a reference point. So you can put any website in there as a reference point for what you're looking at, and you can do it at any level in the pyramid here. The other thing we start doing at the goal level is this traffic light. The traffic light is just a simple visual status for the particular goal at this point in time. Now there's actually 4 traffic lights. Green typically just indicates things are moving along as expected. Yellow would be something potentially getting in the way. Maybe you heard that the person who's driving this program is going to be retiring in a while, so you might mark it as yellow. When you mark it as yellow, you're going to put a note down in here. The note's just going to say, hey, John is going to be retiring soon. We need to replace him to keep the program moving forward. Red would be, maybe unexpectedly John did retire. The program has come to a screeching halt. Again, putting a note down here as to what happened. And then the gold bar indicates successful completion. So if you get to a point in a plan where you're completely done with a plan, you can mark it as gold, indicating it's successfully completed. A new feature we just rolled out this past week, actually, is this little button right here. What that allows you to do is just time and date stamp your notes. So if I click on that, it's going to put in here my date, my time, and then who did it. So in this case, Fred Erickson is adding a new note in here. So it's just a new option we added. People were looking for that to be able to, kind of calculate when these notes were put in there, that sort of thing. Okay, so now reduce smoking in high schools is our goal. Now, when we get down to the objective level, we call these SMART objectives. SMART being specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-based. So in this particular case, we're saying reduce smoking at Wayne High School by 25% by the end of the school year. So what we're doing is setting a finite target. The target is, in fact, to get to 25% reduction by the end of the school year at Wayne High School. To get us here, we're going to assign this person called an objective lead. Steve Hansen is our objective lead. So he's the project manager, program manager, who's assigned to get us to that target down here. Now, a lot of plans typically stop at this level, specifically strategic plans. We've set the target. We know what we're going to do. Let's go out and do it. And it works really well right up until somebody comes up and says, hey, cool, how are you going to do it? That's where we get down to the activity level, or some people call these action steps. The activities are the set of steps that we're going to go through that we believe will get us to the target. Now, in the dashboard, there are actually 3 distinct types of activities. Project-based is by far the most common. Quantitative measurement would be the next most common, and then quality assurance is the third. I've got an example of each of these. We'll kind of go through them quickly. When we go into the operational plan training in the next session, we'll get a lot deeper into these. So our first activity is create training content and materials for students and faculty on the dangers of smoking. Every activity has got a performance metric. It just says, how do I know when I've successfully completed the activity? So in this case, it's something that you're going to create. So I'm going to be building PowerPoints and videos and manuals and that sort of thing for our training in here. How do I know when I'm done? Well, when those have been created, we're done with that. Every activity's got a date range in it. So in this case, we're saying between these 2 dates, we're going to do this. And by the way, these can be varied over time depending on the situation. COVID comes in and eats up all your resources. Obviously, you're going to have to move the dates out. This particular type of activity is measured just by a % complete. So in this case, you can see down in the notes field, we had completed chapter 1 of 4. So it was probably 25%, 50%, 75, and 100%. So we're just tracking it along the path here. The other thing we do at every activity level is we assign a team of people. So clicking on this little pencil icon, it's going to open this up, open it up to the whole department. And like I said, we're going to get into a lot more detail in future trainings here. So we have 3 columns: team members. So these are the folks who are working on the content. The team leads. So Diane is kind of leading the charge here. And then email notification. Email notification is what we call real-time planning. And what that is Diane will get an email on a regular basis. Typically it's monthly. To come back in and update this particular activity. So she's going to go in and say, hey, I've completed chapter 3 of 4 and mark it as 75%, something along that line. The FTE column over here, not used very often, but typically during budgeting cycles, or I want to know how much this program is going to cost us. So you can sit down and say, okay, Diane is saying it's going to be 10% of her time to do this, and William says 10% of his time, and then Andrea says about 30% of her time. So it's a 0 to 1 in here. So what we can look at is how much does this cost at the activity level in this case. So if I go back to my activity, you'll see down here it says it's a 0.5 FTE for that particular activity. If I take all three of these activities and roll them up to the objective to reduce smoking down here, it says it's a 0.7 FTE. So it just gives you the ability to figure out how much this is going to cost you in human resource to get there. The other thing we have is the ability to add external partners. So you'll think about this when you're doing your community health improvement plan, you're going to have a bunch of external partners. What you can do now is assign those external partners to that activity as well. So in this case, we're saying Fred Erickson at VMSG Dashboard is going to help us to develop that content. So maybe Fred is doing video production or something along that line. So he's an external partner. Now there is an option to make the external partner that email recipient too. So if you're working closely with somebody, instead of you having to call Fred and say, hey, Fred, how you doing on the video production? And then go back in and find that activity and update the activity, Fred can go straight back in there automatically. So the email will go to Fred. He'll go right back in through what we call quick update, which we'll talk about in a few minutes here. And he'll be able to do the update in there. So it just saves you a lot of time and effort in tracking the information. So that's our first activity, is create training content. Now our second activity, we're going to take the training content we created, and we're going to go to the schools, and we're going to provide 9 training sessions each month on the dangers of smoking to students and faculty. This is what we call a quality assurance activity, QA activity. The QA activity is unique in a couple of things. This little guy right here is the activity wizard, so I'll open that up. So you'll notice we have a beginning date but no ending date because we have a frequency. So this is a repetitive activity. In this case, every month we're doing that. You can see the frequency selections here, and you go anywhere from weekly to every 5 years. What we're saying is every month we're going to update that date range so that we're always working within the date range. Down here, we have the ability to set the traffic light automatically in this particular activity. So if it's greater than or equal to 9 training sessions a month, it's going to set it to green. If it's less than or equal to 6, it's going to set it to red, and in between automatically it'll set it to yellow in here. And then we're going to put in a metric type. In this case, the metric type is training sessions provided. So you'll notice what it did is actually created the performance metric for you. Training sessions provided, measured monthly, are green, yellow, and red. So that's the QA activity. Our third activity then is going to, in parallel with doing the training, we're going to contact all 20 tobacco vendors within 1 mile of Wayne High School to assure they're not selling to minors. This is what we call a quantitative measurement activity. The big difference between this and the project-based activity is that we're putting in a quantity as a denominator, if you will, our target quantity of 20. And then over here, we're just putting in how many did we contact, and it's going to do the calculation for us in here. So it's very similar to project-based activity, except we're working in quantities. These quantities can also be dollars. So if you're doing budget or grant tracking or budget tracking, something like that, you can use that. So these are the 3 activities that we believe are going to get us to our target objective here. Now, if I go back through the pyramid, it looks like this. The group that we were working in is Tobacco 2023. We selected tobacco cessation as the initiative we're working on. Reduce smoking in high schools. Reduce smoking at Wayne High School by 25% by the end of the school year. And then the 3 steps we're going to go through to get there. So that's the planning process, and this is the planning model. This is a good, solid planning model. Been around I've been in public health about 21 years now, and it's been around long before I was. But the nice thing about the model is if you put all your plans in the same model, it's very easy to compare plans and contrast elements as you're going through there. So now we have the plan in place. Let's walk it through the PDCA cycle. So plan is done. Next thing, obviously, is we're going to go to the do phase. The do phase is execution. So in this particular case, what we're going to do is create the training content. We're going to take that training content and go to the schools and do 9 training sessions a month. And in parallel with that, we're going to go start talking to those tobacco vendors to make sure they're not selling to minors. This is where the real-time planning comes in. Each of those folks who is designated as the activity lead is going to get an email notification. Let's say it's monthly, and they're going to go back in. So Diane's going to go back in and say, hey, I'm done with the training content. And then maybe Fred is going to go back in and say, hey, I've done 9 training sessions this month. And then John is going to go back in and say, I contacted all 20 tobacco vendors. The reason that is critical is because you cannot do the check phase unless you have the information to check against. So either you go out and manually do that, collect the information, or you let the system do the work for you. I'd suggest letting the system do the work. In the check phase, that's exactly what we're going to do is how are we doing against our target? Let's go back into here and look at our objective again. So our objective to reduce smoking at Wayne High School by 25%. I can look at the history of that information right here with this little chart. So when we started the program back in February of 21, we had no reduction. And we ramped it up, and got to our 25% target right here. So what we're saying is we had a target of 25, an actual 25. The plan is working beautifully. Back to PDCA. That was a check phase. If you're collecting all that information in the background, it's that easy to do the check phase. If you're not, you got to go first manually collect the information and then go back in and do the check phase. In the adjust phase, we're going to make any corrections if necessary. As you can see, the plan is working beautifully. We don't need to change the plan. We're going to continue the execution, check it every once in a while, and continue through this cycle. Now let's go back and take a look at the other objective here. Reduce smoking at Desert Vista High School by 25%. Well, first of all, we see the yellow light. So I'm going to go down to the notes field. It says, not quite to the 25% target, COVID restrictions on training and vendor visits. Okay, so we kind of have an idea of why we're not getting there. Let's go ahead and take a look at our chart. So we started out at 0% reduction, ramped ourselves up, and got to 21. That's pretty good, but it's not our 25% target. So at this point, what we know is we're not making our target. What we don't know is why. So let's go down to our activity level again. So the first activity, create the training content, same as we had before. The gold bar says we're done, don't even need to look at it. However, the second one, we got a red light here. And that is the 9 training sessions each month. Let's go ahead and look at our chart again. So for the first 3 months, we did 9 training sessions, and then boom, fell off the face of the planet here. Got down to the latest time of we're only doing 3 training sessions. Let's assume for a second that this is kind of the point in time when students started staying home due to COVID and working from home. Well, our training was to go into the schools and do the face-to-face training. If we can't do that, obviously we can't do the training. So this is probably causing us an issue here. Our other one down here is contacting all 20 tobacco vendors. Well, we got a yellow light and it says difficulty contacting vendors due to COVID restrictions. Okay, that's probably a good problem here. Let's go take a look at our chart. So we got up to 15 of the 20 vendors and haven't got to the last 5. Maybe didn't have the resources to do it or whatever that happened in there. So at this point in time, we know there's 5 vendors out there that could potentially be doing bad things. So now we know that between not being able to do the training and not being able to contact the vendors is probably why we're not getting to our 25% target. So now we're going to want to make an adjustment. Got a couple of choices in the adjustment. Depending on the surrounding situation, like, we got into COVID, realized we're not going to be able to add any resources to this particular program for quite a while. Maybe we want to adjust the plan down to where we are. In this case, it's sitting at a 21% reduction. Let's take the plan down to 21 and try to keep enough resources going to keep it at a 21% reduction. The other thing, if possible, we could add to the resources. So in this case, we had a training that was face-to-face, but nobody's at school. So maybe let's take that same training and build a virtual version. So using Zoom or GoToMeeting or whatever. And now we can get to the kids at home with the same training. So maybe that'll get us up there a ways. The other thing we couldn't do is get to those other 5 tobacco vendors. Maybe we could find some grant funds sitting around that we could pay an external contractor to go contact those last 5 vendors, something like that. So the adjustments are, no adjustment necessary, as you saw in the first one. If it makes sense to adjust the plan, let's adjust the plan. If we can, let's adjust the resources to get to the plan. And then the fourth option might be adjusting the plan and the resources. So maybe we just have the resources to build a virtual training, but we can't get to the other tobacco vendors. And we think that might get us to a 23% reduction. So let's take the plan to 23, do the virtual training, and move on through that. So every plan is going through this cycle all the time. This is how we keep the plans live and up to date. Now, we talked about macro level performance monitoring. The dashboard is a very dynamic tool that allows you to look at the status of anything in the system. You can look at the entire department on one screen. You can look at any plan on one screen. Here's how it works. Back to my groups tab. So my groups, again, are the big elements here, the buckets, if you will, down here. So I can look at the entire department on one screen. I can look at just my strategic plan. How is the strategic plan performing? Let's assume for a second here that I'm the community health director. And under community health, I have tobacco and WIC. And I come in the morning and I just want to know, hey, how's community health performing today? I just go up to the top right up here and click on this traffic light. What it's going to do is it takes about 10 or 12 seconds to go gather up all the data elements that it's needed to give you the kind of the snapshot of performance of community health. So here's what you're looking at. Again, I could look at anything. Right now, I'm looking at community health and the 2 groups under community health because they report up to community health. I'm looking, first of all, at just the traffic lights. So it says we have 5 gold, 13 green, 4 yellow, and 1 red traffic light up here. So it's pretty good because most of them are in the gold and the green up here. Everything, as you can see, is clickable. So I can drill down and find out, what's this red activity and why am I seeing it? What can I do to get it back on track? Over here, I can choose whether I want to look at the activity level, the objective level, or the goal level in the pyramid. This schedule gauge is showing me aggregately for community health, we're 5 days ahead of schedule in our performance, which is great, right? If I get down below schedule, it's yellow. If I get 60 days below schedule, it turns red. So this is the first place to look. Down here at the bottom, I can drill down on 3 different things. Number 1 is my people. So these are the activity leads, the folks that I assigned at the activity level in here. The first column here is showing me when is the last time this person was in there and updated their information. Now, there's an old adage that says people listen to what you say, people do what you audit. So think of this kind of as a mini audit. So I'm having my staff meeting on Monday morning with my team here. These are my team members. And I bring up this chart and say, here's how we're performing. Everything's pretty good. What this column is showing us is the last time each of you did the updates with that information using the real-time planning. The green says it's been less than 30 days. We want everybody to be there. The yellow says, it's 30 to 60 days. Could be okay depending on the situation. However, the red says you're over 60 days since you're doing that. At that point in time, you don't even have to say anything else. The next time you come in here, all of these will be green because people know that you're watching. So it's a mini audit in there. The FTE column is a roll up by person. So if I assigned a bunch of FTE values down at the activity level to Diane, she rolls up to a 2.05 FTE. That's way, way overboard here. Ideally, you want to keep people down around the 1.0 or sometime 0.9 to 0.10. Tom is a bit low, so I could probably reassign some stuff to him at that point. So it's just a nice way to look at the loading of your people. Again, not used very often, by the way, just typically during budgeting cycles. Lagging indicates that I have activities that are calculated to be behind schedule and color-coded as to how far. The days column is the same as the schedule gauge up here for the individual person. So how are they doing against their assigned schedule? Overdue says I have activities that are past the ending date of the activity and not yet 100% complete. And again, color-coded. And then the number of red, yellow, green, and gold. So if I snapshot across one person here, I get a good feeling for how that person is performing against the plans that we've assigned them. Now I've got 2 other views in here. One is my groups. So down here, it's going to show me the primary group I've got selected and any subgroups down here and the same performance information over here. My third one is priorities, which is the strategic priorities from your strategic plan mapped against everything else in the system. So in the real world, everything should roll up to your strategic plan. If it's not, you got to ask yourself, first of all, should it be in my strategic plan? Do I need to expand my strategic plan? Or secondly, if it's not rolling up into my strategic plan, why am I doing it? So those are the elements. Down here, you'll have the strategic priorities, and again, kind of the same information over here. Top right corner, my priorities. Individually selectable objectives that you want to keep your eye on. So it's kind of a bookmark up here. So what I'm allowed to do is to say, these are the objectives I want to keep my eye on. Typically, they're yellows and reds. And typically, the things that either I'm working on personally or my team is working on, and I just want to keep them front and center. So they're going to show up there. The traffic lights will change in real time if I need that. So this is my dashboard screen. This is the ability to look at the big picture for anything in here. Now, over COVID, while you guys were out saving the world, we decided to add a bunch of features to the system. One of those is what we call VMSG Mobile. That same screen you just saw is broken down into 3 phone screens. Exact same functionality, top left corner, bottom, top right corner. I can drill down on anything on this screen to get to the data behind it. So just a nice way to be able to look at performance on your phone. Just kind of an FYI, you don't need an app. This is actually an app that's built dynamically in the web browser on your phone. So it's always going to be updated. Your IT folks don't limit that way, as to what apps you can put on your phone, that sort of thing. So kind of a nice tool. So what we just discussed is what we call the core functionality of VMSG. Now we have about 240 plus health departments who've used the system primarily to go through some accreditation process. The Fab 6 packet plans that we were talking about, if you get those in the system, you use the accreditation plan, which we'll show you here in a few minutes, and you use the real-time planning, odds are, in fact, it's been 100% so far, that you will get fully demonstrated by FAB for 9.1.1. And that's a key element in there, saying you do have a performance management system and you're actually using it, keeping it updated, and using it to manage your plans in here. Now, moving forward from here, what we're going to do is talk about some of the additional features kind of outside of the core functionality. But before I do that, are there any questions from anybody on what we've discussed so far? Okay, let's move on in. Intelligent document management. Up until about a month ago, this was just called document management. The reason we put this in the system is as you're going through the accreditation process, you're going to be submitting, I'm not quite sure in the Pathways program how many documents, but for the typical accreditation, somewhere between 300 and 1,000 documents. Tracking all those documents, understanding the expiration date of those documents, all that stuff is a process within itself. So we built document management right into the system so you can now attach the documents to the accreditation plan. You know where they are, you know when they expire, and you just drag them out of here and shove them up into EFAB when you're ready to submit them in here. About a month ago, we had a health department in Michigan came to us and said, we have a problem. And that is we have bunches and bunches of policies. We have standard operating procedures. We have MOUs. And we have to track all of these. We have to know where they are. And we have to be able to update them on a regular basis. And we have to be able to assign them to a person to do the update. So what we did is modified one of the activities, that QA activity we talked about, so that we could actually help to manage this process. So here's an example of a plan to do that. You have a group called administrative services, let's say. Underneath there, we built a service called standard operating procedures. The first goal, manage and update all administrative SOPs. We have another goal down here, manage and update all emergency operations SOPs. And you might have bunches and bunches of those goals. Underneath the goal, we would have an objective to manage and update the destruction of records SOP, a specific SOP. The document is attached to the objective here. Under the objective, we put an activity that says update the destruction of records SOP annually. In this case, we're going to link back to that same document, and we're going to assign this activity to Joe, who's responsible for updating this. What we can do is set it as an annual repetitive timeline. And then we can put in there what we call the percent to yellow. What that means is, let's say we set it to 80%. At about 9.5 months through the year, that light's going to turn yellow. Joe is going to get notified to go in and start the update process on that SOP. If it gets to the end of the year and he hasn't done the update yet, it turns red, and then it notifies everybody that that document is overdue in here. So it's just the ability to manage any critical documentation over a period of time. The other thing it gives you is a place to go there and have those documents available. So you can give everybody else read access to that information. They can just go in and grab that SOP when they need to use it. So just kind of a nice tool. It's built in for you. Lots and lots of reports in the system. We do have a whole training on performance monitoring, which includes all the reporting we'll go through. But just an example, the most common report is the operational plan report at the top here. And for the program we're talking about today, it would look like this. You've got the group, the initiative. You can see the document that's attached down here. You can have as many of those as you want. Here's that data source we talked about attached to the goal. The blue is the notes that you put in there. You've got the status, the traffic lights, everything you want to know, but we're afraid to ask. This report is very, very detailed. In fact, it's the most detailed performance monitoring tool. Probably mostly only applicable to Steve here, who's the activity lead or the objective lead. So Steve wants to see this level of information. Everybody else just kind of wants to know how we're doing. So what we did is we built what we call VMSG Public, and that is the ability to take any data elements in the system and create a public-facing web page with them. So in the case that we're looking at today, this would be maybe a web page we'd want to see. Under the initiative tobacco cessation, I roll over here and we see we have 3 completed, 1 green, 1 yellow, 1 red, and we're 51 days behind schedule. So this just gives me a visual snapshot of the performance of the whole tobacco cessation initiative. Then what I've done is broken that down underneath here to reduce smoking in high school, same thing. Down under here, I'm looking at reduce smoking at Wayne High School, looking at the specifics on that, the timeline, reduce smoking at Desert Vista High School. So I can have as many of these, what we call indicator rows on a page as I want. And I can have as many pages as I want. Bottom line is it generates this unique web address. You can put that in copy it, put it into an email. Maybe you send it to the board and say, here's how we're doing on a tobacco program, or here's how we're doing on our strategic plan. You can also give that to your IT folks and say, hey, please put up a link on our webpage so the public can go in and view the status of anything. You can't get from here back into the system, so it's all completely isolated, but it does give you just a graphical reference of the performance. Okay, we got 2 more short sections to go through, but are there any questions on any of this stuff so far? Okay, 3-dimensional planning. Once you get most of your plans in the system, and by the way, you can have as many plans as you want. We typically start with this, the Fab 6 packet plans for the accreditation process in here. However, you can have plans for community health and tobacco and WIC and everything else. You can have as many as you want in the system. Once you get a good bunch of plans in there, sometimes it's nice to look across all those plans for commonalities, kind of where are we doing the same thing twice, or gaps, where aren't we doing something, and even overlaps in there. So for instance, you might want to say, how are we doing against the essentials of public health? So in this case, we're saying these 3 data elements from these 3 plans map back to public health essential number 1. The FAB standards are all in there too. So I can go in there and say, show me everything we're doing against FAB standard 6.1. Here's where this comes in really handy. You're going to go through a site visit, regardless of which accreditation path you take. In that site visit, you can go in there, and once you map this into your system, you can sit down with a site reviewer and do what we call a category tag report, and it'll say, show me everything you're doing for standard 6.1. It'll give you every document, every plan element that is related to 6.1. They love it because it makes it so easy to have everything in one place for them. Your strategic priorities also get mapped in there to make sure that everything you're doing, again, maps to the strategic plan. And you can tag all the documents as well. So I can go in and say, across the whole system, these are the 3 documents we're going to submit for standard 4.2. So 3-dimensional planning is kind of a big bubble over the top of everything else in the system. Talk about the accreditation plans. We've got all of the accreditation plans built into the system. Version 1.5 plans, which some people are still in the tail end of using that, but all of the FAB 2022 plans. So you've got, here's the pathways plan. We'll kind of walk through that a little bit here. There's the pathways recognition. By the way, you can have as many of these plans or as few of them as you want. We don't charge for any of that stuff. So you got the reaccreditation plans after you get through accreditation. The pathways, there's not a reaccreditation for pathways. Your next step would be to move into the actual accreditation. But just to give you a reference point, the old 1.5 version had about 135 measures. They streamlined that down in the 2022 version of accreditation to about 85 measures. And then the pathways has about 35 of those 85 measures in there. So just to give you kind of a reference point. But if I start going down through the pathways here, go down here, it's going to give you the accreditation process, which is just kind of the steps you're going to go through, and then also including reaccreditation. Under the domains, then you're going to have the standards. And then the pathways uses the standards, but doesn't really designate them as standards. They go right to the measure level here. You can notice down here in the data source, we actually tag it to the FAB documentation. So you not only have the information that we've got in the system here, which, by the way, all comes from FAB, but you also can go right to that data source, the FAB documentation for, in this case, for the community health assessment. And this is, you can notice this is directly into the pathways recognition program there. Underneath the standard, we have the measures, and everything in here is particularly the measures just for pathways in this particular one. This is where the documentation comes in. This is the document management button. Again, we're going to go into detail on the operational planning when we get into there, but you can attach the community health assessment right to the measure here. But if you're like me, you're going to look at that and say, okay, what all is in a community health assessment? Well, that's what the activities here are for. The activities define the 7 things that you have to have in a community health assessment. So for instance, the first thing is include in the CHA a list of participating partners. So what they're looking for, obviously, is a list. You look on the document management button here, it says there's 3 documents attached. If I click on that, you notice it only shows the one, and that's because it's version 3. Well, this checkbox says show all versions. So these are the different versions of the document in here. Typically, yellow would indicate a draft. Green would indicate you guys are done with it, ready to submit it. Gold would indicate that you've submitted it up into the EFAB system already. But again, typically I just want to look at the latest version so I can show that. But you can add as many documents in here as you need. In this case, you're just looking for a partner list, and then there'll be other documents in the other activities. Once you get all those documents put together, you're going to actually create your CHA and put the CHA up at the measure level in here. So that is the plan. Here's how we get you set up. We're just actually working through this with the city of Kansas City right now, of going through the plan. But what we're doing is we're going to mass assign at the domain level who is your domain lead for each of the domains. We're going to push that all the way down to the objective and activity leads. And then you're going to say, okay, we're going to plan on submitting December 31st of 2023. We're going to plan on submitting to EFAB with all that information. So we'll push the end date of all the activities down. What that does is get you the people in there, get the dates in there, turn on the real-time planning. Everybody who's involved will be getting those email notifications to start their update process. So what it is just a nice way to walk through the accreditation process. So again, all those plans are in there. You tell us which ones you want, and we'll put them all in there for you. Might be worth having both the 2022 accreditation plan as well as the pathways plan. I'll put them both in there for you so you can compare them. What we did over COVID again is also built what we call a virtual mock site visit. So as you get down towards the end of the accreditation process, some people like to hire somebody who's a fab expert to come in and just review everything they've got, all the documents, all the plans, just make sure they're ready. So we built the review process right in. The reviewer comes in here, puts in their notes, sets a traffic light, et cetera. And then what you can do is generate a report called an accreditation review report that shows you all of your stuff plus all of their stuff. You compare it all. If everything is good, you're ready for your site review. If there's a couple of notes in there that, hey, your strategic plan will be obsolete by time your review comes around, you might want to update your strategic plan. So it's just a nice way to do that. We will train the person that you hired to do it. It's a simple process. They'll walk through it, do your updates. You got the report, you're all set to go. Built into the system is context sensitive help. So I'm sitting at my services tab. If I have any questions about, how do I add a service? How do I remove something? What are all these buttons for? I just merely go up to the blue eye in the top right corner. It takes me right down to adding and managing services. This is just a bullet step, if you will, kind of the left-brained approach over here. So if I'm going to add a service, here's what I do. If I'm going to remove it, here's what I do. Kind of notes in there about different things. So this is just the basic steps, plus all the buttons on that screen will be defined down here. So you have all that in there. You also have a video training module on specifically services and initiatives. The entire user guide is right here as a hyperlink PDF file. And then this document down here is called implementation guidelines. And that's just things we've collected from clients over the years about best practices, what works well. There's a couple of templates in there for developing plans. There's a couple of IT things in there. Just lots of nice stuff to review as you're implementing the system in here. In addition, up here at the top left, these top five are training modules. There are 5 basic training modules here, as you can see. The one we're going through today is the intro, so you can skip that. If you don't mind doing online training, these are, the admin is just for the administrator folks that you guys have assigned. So basically you'd be doing these 3 modules, which I think is about 2 hours and 15 minutes. But it's really detailed video-based training. It'll walk you through everything in the system. We will also be offering to do these for you live. So if you prefer to do it live, so you can do Q&A and that sort of thing, we'll do that. But if you want to go in online and do it, you have access to do that right now, 24/7. One more section to go through. Any questions? So Matthew says, does the document repository use local or cloud? It's all cloud storage. So all the documents are stored up on our servers. They're all encrypted. They're backed up every night. So they're always going to be there. If one team member uploads a doc, will another be? Yes. And that's the permissions that you can set up. But yes, if one person uploads all the documents for one of the measures in there, other people will be able to access it. They can, create a new version of it. So things along that line. Good questions. Thank you. Intelligent real-time planning. This is that background email notification and what we call quick update. Here's how it works. Most people set it up for a monthly cycle. You can set it for anything you want. Typically, let's say we have it set for the first Monday of the month. First Monday of the month at 1 in the morning, the system goes in there and looks at everybody you've assigned as an objective lead and an activity lead, and it asks 3 questions. Has this person been in the last 30 days and updated their stuff? Does this person have anything that has fallen behind schedule? Does this person have anything that's overdue? If none of those are true, no email goes out. If any of those are true, out go the emails. As I had mentioned, emails can go to internal folks as well as external partners. In that email is a link, takes you back into the login, gives you the option to go into the main menu or to quick update. We recommend using quick update because it's a super simple process. You're going to go through and update your activities, update your objectives, and log out and you're done. The typical time frame for this is about 3 to 5 minutes per person per month. The ideal situation is that the people who are responding are the people who are actually doing the activities. So who is actually creating the training content? That's the person you want to respond. Who is doing the training sessions at the school? That's the person to respond. Who's contacting tobacco vendors? That's the person. Because what you're going to do is get the most accurate information, if you will, from the source. Now, the quick update screens look similar to this. This is the activity quick update screen. The top of it, it looks complex, but it's not. And the reason is the top of it is merely context. So it's the group, service, goal, objective, activity 1 of 6, my performance metric. There's only 3 fields to update. I can change the traffic light, put in the data value. So I can say I did 9 training sessions this month. Any notes that I might want to put in there, I can put in there. And then I'm going to go to the next one, the next one. I'll go through my 6 activities. I'll get to my objectives. If I've been assigned an objective lead, I'll go through those. And then I'm done. Like I say, 3 to 5 minutes typically. Now, the email notification that comes out looks similar to this. You guys may have already seen this. Here's the reason I got it, those 3 criteria we mentioned. This is just kind of an FYI. For all of the activities I've been assigned, here's the traffic light status. You're going to have your administrators assigned here so that if you have any questions, you can go back to your administrators. They can help you to dig through whatever you need to do. And then the link. This link takes you right back into the dashboard. I know some of you have already been in the system and logged in. Some of you have not. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to walk through the login process and the quick update process and how to change your password. So I'm just going to walk through that. First thing I'm going to do is just go through it in a text version to show you the steps, and then I'm actually going to go in and do it here. So here's the steps you're going to go through. Here's the link. You can either go to login.vmsgdashboard.com or just vmsgdashboard.com. If you go to vmsgdashboard.com, there's a link in the top right corner that says current user login here, or you can go here. It'll take you right to the login. There's a dialog box that pops up. It's going to have a send button on it, meaning send me my information. You'll click on that. You put in your email address, and then it's going to give you a dialog box. The dialog will either say error or some sort of an error, or it'll say success. If it says success, hey, I found your email address, found your login information, sent you the email. If it says error, please contact us. We'll get you fixed up. There's a login button then on the top of the screen. Again, I'm going to show you all this here. You click on that again. You get the same dialog box. This time, enter either your user ID or your email address. Either one works. Then you're going to enter your password and you're going to click login. And that's going to take you into the screen. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually take you through the process here. So this button at the top right corner is my log off. So I'm going to click on that, log off. This is the vmsgdashboard.com, net.org, whatever you want to call it, screen. Here's the link I was talking about, already a user. Click login here. We'll go do that. It'll take me to the login.vmsgdashboard.com login page here. First thing I'm going to do is hit the send button. Then I'm going to put in my email address. And I'll hit send again. I'm going to get the dialog box that says success, meaning it found everything and it sent me the email. The email will look similar to this. So it says, here's your user ID, your password. Now, one nice thing is you do not have to remember this user ID because you can use your email address in place of it if you choose to. You can go back and forth, whatever you want to do with it. What I'm going to probably do, this password would be some crazy cryptic string if you've never logged in before. So you're going to want to go in and capture that password, maybe just copy and paste it. You're going to go back into here. I'll hit OK. This is the login button I was talking about. I'll click on that. Now I'm going to go in here and put in either my username or my email, put in my password, hit login. Now, if I have been assigned as an objective or an activity lead, I'll get this dialog. Do I want to go to the main menu? That's where we've been all day. Or do I want to go to the quick update screen? I'm going to go ahead and choose quick update. So it's going to take me to my activities on the quick update screen. So you notice it says I have 28 activities up here assigned to me. So that's a lot of activities. But again, down here at the bottom, I have the traffic light, the data value, my notes field. Again, I can go in here and put in, using this, I can put in a time and date stamp note in there, which is, sometimes nice to have. So don't save that. So now I've got these activities I'm going to walk through. I'm just going to go ahead. And by the way, document management is up here too. So as you're updating the activities, in this case for the FAB accreditation plan, I can actually attach my documents using this as well. I'm going to go ahead and just cycle through all of these activities. Okay, I'm on activity 28, my last activity here. When I click this, it says, hey, you've also been assigned as an objective lead. I'm going to go ahead and click objectives. You'll see a very similar screen here, except I'm looking now at the objective level. I'm going to go ahead and go to the next one. Okay, so, and the other thing I told you I'd talk about is changing your password. This key link button up here says, put in that current password that was in the email, put in whatever new password you want, verify the new password, hit update, you're all set to go. At the objective level, I'm going to be updating the data value, traffic light, and the notes field again. That's all I need to look at down here. But because I'm the objective lead, I also have access to the activities under that objective. You notice a couple of these are in blue. What that means is these activities have been assigned to me, which means I've already been through them. I just went through them. The gray ones, however, are activities that I have probably assigned to somebody else. However, I have the ability to go in and update those activities as well because I'm the objective lead in here. So again, I'm going to cycle through all my objectives. I'm going to log out and I'm done for the month. Hang on 1 second, please. This is something else that is in your VMSG mobile app. So if you go in, let's say it's the first Monday of the month, you're driving into the office, you decide, hey, I'm going to stop at Starbucks and have a coffee. You sit down, you pop open your phone, you've got that email from VMSG dashboard in there. You click on the link, you can log in, same credentials as you use on your desktop, and you can then go to the quick update. So I can do the quick update in a simpler version of the screen, but the same thing, notes, traffic light, data value, next, next, next. I can go through my activities, my objectives on my phone, and I can be done for the month, before I even get into the office. So just a nice, again, a nice tool to have. And that was your data dump for today, or drink from a fire hose. Any questions? Anything else you'd like to see? Again, we are going to be scheduling the next training, which is the operational planning training, where we actually go through and develop an operational plan, and then we'll have you guys develop plans. We'll come back and review those plans and actually have you enter the plans in the system into a training group while we're in there. And then we'll go into the performance monitoring training after that. But this was just meant to be an overview, to kind of give you the big picture here. But any questions or anything else you'd like to see? Okay, well, I hope nobody drowned. If you do have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. We'll get back with you. If you need any help getting things going, if your login credentials are not yet in the system, please contact me and I'll get you set up in the system. There will be a recording of this. Marcy wanted it recorded, so we will have the recording done here. If you do need anything, please reach out and contact me. Thank you very much for your time today, folks.